Hey everyone, Dave and Carla Menz here with Laundromat Millionaire. We hope you are having a great holiday season, and we are excited to do another YouTube slash LinkedIn slash Twitter slash Facebook Live with you all today, and to answer your questions. I see we already have a couple people in the chat, so that's pretty exciting. But as you guys jump in, let us know where you're located. It's always interesting to hear where you guys are located from. If you want to share the name of your business or the name of your laundromat or whatever, we love to hear that as well too. I know we have a lot of friends join us in here, but we're numbers are ticking up pretty quick. So welcome, guys. Welcome. Carla, do you want to introduce our guest?
So today we have with us two people from ADP Services. They're not just payroll, by the way. And we have Justis Mullins and Patrick Schulteis here today.
Hello. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Carla, for having us tonight. We're excited to chat. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And if you didn't catch it, we actually had Justis on our podcast. It's been, how long has it been? A few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks now.
About a month.
Yeah.
Hey, Arthur, welcome from Dallas.
Oh, he's down near you all.
Hey,
they're in Texas.
Here from Florida. Yep, we're here in Texas. So just to give the audience a quick introduction, my name is Justis Mullins. I'm actually a sales manager, sales executive at ADP. So we were on live on the podcast a few weeks back. And today we've got one of my associates. I run a team of 11. So I've got Patrick Schulteis here joining us. So.
Yeah, Patrick Schulteis. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, where Dave and Carla are right now. Connected with them when I went back home, probably around May. Kind of showed them ADP's platform. And then, from there, we talked about, helping out, the Laundromat Millionaire network and, partnering up with ADP to help support you guys in all aspects of, your business. So living down here in Austin, Texas, working for Justis and, looking to network with business owners. So it's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And
a little bit of backstory here in case you didn't see the podcast. So we switched to ADP from another payroll service, and we were just really impressed with the service, the platform, that they have so much more to offer than just payroll. We're talking full HR management, benefits, retirement plans. They can help you with all that. Like, they're just an awesome resource. And so we switched to ADP, and then we talked to them. We're like, we think other people would be interested. And so if you didn't hear the podcast, or if you haven't been on laundromatmillionaire.com, the services page, we actually worked out with ADP a discount for you all of 20% off. If you want to switch to ADP, you get 20% off their run payroll system. So definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, and you can just go to our website, like she said, laundromatmillionaire.com. I think it's /services, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But go to the services page, and you can request a meeting with Patrick, and he'll sit down, and no obligation, no pressure. I know they call themselves sales guys. Sometimes sales guys get a bad rap, but I'm here to tell you these guys are good guys. They're genuinely here to help you, which is why we've kind of embraced them, bring them into the platform. And if you decide to use ADP, that's great too. But we're not here tonight to sell you anything. No. We're just here to help you run your business better. Obviously, these guys have a lot of experience in the world of payroll and employee hiring and HR, and they can even explain some of the resources that the platform offers. But we're ultimately just here to answer your questions. And by the way, while this is topic specific to employees and payroll and hiring and things like that, that's not the only thing we're here to talk about tonight. So if you have questions about your business in general, obviously we talk a lot about laundromats around here, but we'll try to help you in any way we can. No strings attached. This is just a free service that we try to provide to our community. And I see we got some friends jumping in here. Hey, Kev, how are you? And Rick from Sprint Cycle. Good to have you guys. And we'll just keep climbing the numbers. But feel free to put your comments or questions in the chat. Thanks, Kev. Yeah, Kevin and his business partner, Aaron, are coaching clients of mine. Absolute rock stars. So if you're in the industry and you're doing something, you're going to get to know them because they're doing something. They're pretty awesome guys. So I appreciate the shout out, Kev. But guys, hey, start dropping your questions in the chat. Once again, if we're not ashamed to tell you we don't know the answer. So no question is off limits. Ask us anything you want. Any way we can help you, even if, I know Arthur's a distributor. If you don't own laundromats, that's fine too. We're just here to help each other and build community, build relationships. And by the way, the last thing I want to say before we start taking questions is don't forget that you can help each other too. So we always love the community aspect to the chat. There's people from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter that are all followers of ours in different ways. And if you see a question that's asked in the chat, me, Carla, Patrick, Justis, we might have our own opinions or takes on these things. But don't forget too, that you can help each other. There's a lot of knowledge in the chat. There's a lot of rock stars in the chat, and there will be even more as we get some momentum here. And don't ever forget that you can help each other. So if you see someone ask a question and you are going to have an opinion or a take, or maybe that happens to be in your expertise or whatever, feel free to answer to those too.
So it looks like we have Aram all the way from Nigeria.
Yes.
Welcome, Aram. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, but welcome. That's awesome.
Wow.
Yes.
And we have someone, Renisha, wanting to know what our podcast is about. Definitely check it out, the Laundromat Millionaire Show. So it's really focused on just trying to help people in the laundromat industry, independent owners, kind of also small business owners, but mostly focused on the laundromat business. And we have guests that are other laundromat owners or services that we use. And then sometimes just Dave and I ourselves, we own a chain of 4 laundromats and a pickup and delivery service in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it's us sharing what we've learned on our journey and just trying to help other owners. So that's kind of the podcast.
Carla and Dave, Renisha is one of the accountants that I used to work with when I was an associate in Atlanta, and actually somebody that I would, absolutely network with you guys offline. But I don't know if you guys could take a couple minutes to really talk her through the backstory, just the high level. I think that would be awesome.
Okay. Dave, you want to share our backstory?
Yeah. How did
Oh my goodness. We only have a
book.
We only have an hour, guys. So our quick story, I'll try to be as quick as I can, is back in 2010, I became a little bit disenfranchised with my corporate gig, or actually probably years before that. But in 2010, we bought our first rundown laundromat and decided, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, wanted to follow my childhood dream. We bought a little local laundromat a couple miles from our house that was losing money when we bought it. And the owners were very clear about that we were losing money.
And it was a dump.
It was a dump. Carla was very excited. You're going to get some sarcasm coming in. Carla was very excited to buy this dumpy laundromat. She thought it was going to change our lives forever. Not in a good way, maybe. And, the other side of the equation is, we didn't know anything about owning a business back then. And there weren't a lot of great resources out there on how to help other business owners and laundromat owners to improve their business. So we had to learn through the school of hard knocks, bumping our heads against a wall, stubbing our toes, trying things that didn't work and costed us money and time, and bringing it full circle and learning those lessons the hard way. And I would describe that as the first 5 years of our journey. We acquired 3 stores in the first 5 years and made a whole lot of mistakes. Over the next 5 years, we started to figure out a few things, but bumped our toes a lot of times in the industry, and still we're having trouble finding great resources, and even struggling finding ways to connect with other laundromat owners and other business owners that could help us to improve our business. And around the 10-year mark of owning our own businesses, we figured out that we had kind of evolved accidentally from kind of newbies that knew nothing to we knew some stuff. We didn't claim to know everything then and don't claim to know everything now, but we knew a little something, and we were able to help a few people. And so we started answering questions, helping a few people. Around that time, we also launched a pickup and delivery business and learned a lot about that too. And people started reaching out to us and asking us questions. And around that time frame, we looked back, that's about the time Laundromat Millionaire was created, and said, you know what? There aren't a lot of good resources for business owners out there in the industry, and podcasting and social media has become a thing, email blasts and things like that. And we thought, man, over the years, we've built an extensive network. We've built a pretty successful business at this point. As Carla mentioned, we have a pretty robust pickup and delivery laundry service here in Cincinnati. And we have a chain of 4 laundromats here in Cincinnati. But we've also built a pretty extensive network of other rock stars in the industry. And what we ultimately decided was it shouldn't be as hard as it has been for us, for you. And so what if we could do something about that? Because we're not in 2010 anymore. We do know a little something. And then as we launched the platform and started helping a few people with our own voices, we also learned how powerful our network is. And what if we brought in our friend Bob and our friend Jane and we let them share their story on the podcast and how much they would be able to help you, regardless of whether they have 1 or 2 years of experience or 1,000. We all can help and benefit each other. And then that turned into, and this is final story, I promise. At the end of the story, it turned into partnerships, like with Justis and Patrick over in the team at ADP, where we said, okay, if we can bring our friends in, what if we can build partnerships and relationships and do what we call collaboration with things like this that we can do for free to you all to help benefit you. And then if we can negotiate a discount where everybody gets 20% off of ADP, then that's even better too, because ADP wins, they grow their business, they're happy, they have more clients, they have more exposure to our industry specifically. But they can also do things like this, because a lot of people don't know. And this, I promise I'll stop after this.
You never get short answers from Dave.
No, you
I
don't.
should have known better.
So a lot of people don't realize that, and I'm not a salesman for ADP, but a lot of people don't realize that ADP isn't just a payroll company. Of course, they provide those services, but they are this mega, like $9 billion corporation that has some insane resources geared towards small business owners. Like
I think that's the big thing. People think it's just for like big corporations, but no, Justis is the head is a sales manager over their small business unit. Like, and you said what was it, like 80% of your clients are in the 1 to 50 employees or something?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So we've got 1 million clients in over 140 countries. We handle payroll services or some sort of services for over 80% of the Fortune 500. We even do payroll for the IRS. But of those 1 million clients, like 800 to 900,000 of them are actually those mom and pops, the 1 to 49 employee businesses. So, small business, it's the backbone of the American economy. And it truly is the key driver of our growth as a company, as an organization.
And so because of that, I don't know if because of that or in spite of that, but because of that, ADP has embraced they've been around for, I don't know how long, but a long time. They've embraced the idea that they are a channel for small business owners and to help us be successful. And so the point of even them being allowed to come on this platform and share information about payroll and employees and hiring and things like that here, but also they put on their own webinars for small business owners that I get notifications about all the time on topic specific things that are just part of being in the ADP family, if we want to call it that. So one of the things we're here to do is obviously not sell any ADP services. Like, we have a discount if you're interested, but more importantly, just help you with our business, help you with your business.
That's a big one. Our claim to fame is payroll, right? It's a big part of what we do. But really the bigger picture is, how can we help create better outcomes for small business owners? And it starts in the beginning with just getting your people paid. But over time, your needs as a small business quickly evolve, right? And so it's a question of handling and mitigating compliance and tax risk, managing cash flow, and then eventually attracting and retaining a better quality of talent so that you can start to remove yourself from that day to day, like we were talking about earlier, and take that strategic look as the executive of your business. You can still be a mom and pop, but run it like a corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So my role in the business, one of my roles in the business is I've always done all the bookkeeping. And from the perspective of a small business owner, like, it is so nice to have another company that you can rely on and has an easy like dashboard and platform. Like, I literally do nothing with the payroll. Nothing, which is fabulous. One thing with using this company, using ADP, I don't have to worry about keeping track of all the new laws regarding, workers' comp and social security tax and all that kind of stuff. You all do all that for us. And your dashboard is so easy that our managers, they input all the payroll. That's not an issue at all. And I know you all even have things, we use Sense, which is a little different for our clocking in, but you all even have software where, your employee can clock in and it directly goes into that payroll calculation where you don't even have that data entry that we do. So it makes things easier. And I will say, as a small business owner, you want stuff as easy as possible.
Oh, for
because
sure.
especially as your company grows, all that work grows. It's Like the
Oh,
bookkeeping
absolutely.
has grown.
Yeah, the platform that we deal with, it's called Run. So it's our
Mhm.
cloud-based payroll system. And I'd say like the big pillars of it are the scalability, right? We can support that one employee business that's just
Mhm.
getting a legitimate paycheck out to their very first, hire. So it's got the scalability, but it's that ease of use and the support that really differentiates us in the market. We've got a 24-hour support team. And when you talk about your business's most critical function, getting your people paid accurately and on time and in compliance with the law, like you want to make sure you've got a solid system, one that's that has withstood the test of time. And I think we're definitely very thankful to be a part of the Laundromat Millionaire platform and be able to support the businesses in you guys' network. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about human capital management, hiring, firing, onboarding, candidate experience, attracting and retaining talent, workers' compensation, benefits, like there's so many avenues that we could go. I'd be curious for anyone out there, have you guys actually started hiring? Do we have folks that in the audience right now that have employees working, let's say on a 1099 basis,
Mhm.
and maybe have been thinking about making that transition to W-2 and are wondering what that looks like? That would be
So just to clarify for everybody, so 1099 is like if you have a contractor,
Mhm.
so you're just
Yeah.
paying them for a set job, versus a W-2 means an employee that you are maintaining hours for and submitting payroll and all of that. Can you talk to, I know recently New Jersey got in a ton of trouble for, there was an investigation by the, what was it, the department, jobs department, whatever. And they found that a lot of the laundromats were in violation of different legal working things. I'm butchering this, but labor laws. There's the
Labor law.
word.
There you go.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between being able to just call someone a 1099 versus a W-2? Because, it's not like you can just call anybody a 1099 so you don't have to do payroll.
For sure.
Mhm.
And I'll let Patrick dive into that a bit in a sec, but like that's a huge one that we come across every day with our prospects and our clients. When you're working in the small business space, like obviously it's easier to just call the people working for you 1099 employees. You don't have to withhold any tax from their pay. You don't have to worry about getting that money to the government. And then the employees, people working, typically tend to like that arrangement because it means that they're receiving their full gross, right? They're receiving more money, and it
Not
seems like
legally.
it seems like that win-win-win until
Mhm.
the Department of Labor, until the IRS come knocking. So it's pretty crazy. But you wanna
Yeah,
tackle
like
that
as
one?
far as the misclassification of employees goes, when you're a new business owner, that's a lot of things that we're talking with these laundromat millionaire community members when we're doing our complimentary HR screenings. Is before they open up their doors for business, are they properly in compliance with current regulations, with current labor laws, and going through the difference between properly classifying a W-2 employee and properly classifying somebody that's a 1099, contractor. There's a lot of different kind of factors that play into it. And we want to make sure that, they understand kind of the regulations that, they need to be looking at before classifying them, when they open up their store, so that their employees are properly, classified, and they're not, encountering those, kind of fines, fees that, they'd be facing if, something was misclassified. So that's a big conversation we're having around, our complimentary HR screenings with these owners to make sure everything's set up properly.
Because it's not cut and dry, right? Like if you had two businesses, right, they have very similar operations, but the nature of the work at location A could be just slightly different from the nature of the work relationship at location B. Location A could be completely fine classifying their workforce as 1099, and location B could be completely out of compliance. And so it's very situational. And so, yeah, with these complimentary HR screenings, what we do is we sit down with our clients and we begin with just asking questions. It starts with the history of the business. How long have you guys been in business? Tell us, about the brand today, and then what's the vision for this brand in the future? And then tell me about your operations. How many folks do you have on staff? what do they do for you exactly? What type of different job roles are your people working in? You know, are they wearing your uniform? Are they driving your company vehicles? Are they using equipment that you provided, or do they bring that themselves?
Supplies.
Are you yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so really on these meetings, like we're here to sit down and give, food for thought and point to those resources. Like you can find, information about the common law test on the IRS website.
Yeah.
And it gives you a list of questions you can go through to determine whether or not the folks that you've got working for you should be W-2 and that, you should be withholding tax from, or, if you're safe to call them their independent business, their own, their own organization.
And if they are a 1099 contractor where, they are their own business organization and they're working for you as well, with ADP's platform, you are able to, classify whether you're paying W-2 employees or 1099 employees, and you do have the ability to do both, which a lot of people think that, just because they're a 1099 employee doesn't mean that they should be on the payroll, when actually you are able to pay them through the payroll, and we show them how to properly do that.
Yep, keeps that record keeping nice and simple.
Yeah. I will say that the customer support has been amazing. Like any questions we've had, you all have been on it. We have a couple questions in the feed. One person wants to know, is ADP tied in with Sense, Curbside, or other laundromat POS systems? So I'm thinking they mean like we said in Sense, our employees clock in on our Sense POS system. Is there any type of connection there where it'll feed the data directly into the ADP run?
So I'm not familiar with those particular systems. What I will say is that we have what's called ADP Marketplace. So it's, as far as ADP is concerned, we have one of the largest ecosystems of third-party integrations of any company in the HCM space. We can check our marketplace site to see if we work specifically with those companies. If not, we also do work with another type of company that are called connectors. It's a third-party connector that can create an integration between systems. So we can certainly look at that on the kind of one-off. But yeah, thank you for dropping that one in there. We'll definitely take a look at those, because that could be, one of the next few partnerships we look toward in Marketplace.
Yeah, just to touch on a little bit. So Sense, Curbside, and then this is other laundromat POSs. So these are, just for anyone that doesn't know in the chat, or for Justis and Patrick, these are software companies that provide POSs / pickup and delivery software platforms for managing your laundromat business. Okay. Some of them are more, there's dozens of them, but some of them are more specific towards a specific product. Like they might just have a POS and that's it, meaning over the counter, but they don't do pickup and delivery. Some of them will have pickup and delivery, but not up over the counter. Some of them have, which Sense is kind of more of an all-in-one business management solutions. And the question when it comes to like tied or untied, I think the word that they're probably referring to there is integration. And to my knowledge and to Justis and Patrick's knowledge, there is not any integration between ADP and any of the companies in our industry right now. But yeah, maybe that's something I can connect you guys with some people, and you can do that, because it does make it easier for us, the business owner, to run and function our business if we're partnered with ADP and any of these other companies. So I think that's really the question specifically.
We love integration.
Totally.
Yeah. And the funny thing is most of these companies do too. Sometimes they will reach out to companies like yourself or Google or whoever for integration. A lot of times when they're getting a lot of people asking, sometimes they're just so busy running their business that they don't have time to reach out to ADP. But if somebody from ADP reaches out to them, they usually are willing to embrace those type of, they call it API integration and things like that. This is a good question here, and it's kind of I think we're going to twist it a little bit. So the question specifically is from Spin Cycle: do a lot of laundromats have SEPs for themselves and their employees? I think the answer to that question would probably be no, would be my opinion, just from anecdotally having conversations. I think more importantly, could you guys explain what a SEP is? And kind of go down that path a little bit. And then if you have any knowledge of, certain percentages of small businesses in general, not just laundromats, that maybe have things like that or should have things like that, or quite frankly, there's probably people in the chat that maybe should consider these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I can dive into a little bit. I'm not retirement licensed, so neither one of us are, so we can't dive too deeply, but just to cover it topically, A SEP is it's a small business pension plan. So ADP, we actually have a retirement services division where we consult with our small business clients and we help them determine the best retirement vehicle for their needs, for their, really for their profitability and also their size. So the main vehicles that we deal with are
401ks.
Yep.
Simple
SEPs.
IRAs and SEPs.
Yep. And so the SEP is powerful. You can put a lot of money away in the SEP, but the thing is that the question asks, do a lot of laundromats have SEPs for themselves and their employees? The downside, as an owner, is that when you set up a SEP IRA, you've got to contribute to your employees the exact amount that you contribute to your retirement. And so if your plan is to max out your retirement, well, it gets expensive quick if you're offering that to your employees as well. So it can be a really good benefit. But if you're looking to maximize for yourself as an owner, I'd say it's probably not the best tool. And there's some other strategies we could definitely break down.
And the thing that I've run into a lot when I've been talking to the people from the Laundromat Millionaire community is the fact that, people that are in states that legally require, retirement plans set up for their businesses, the systems that they're using aren't fully integrated with their payroll, and integrating with the payroll, takes the admin burden off of the owner's end. And it's something that, they have to do anyway. So, why not make it as seamless as possible on yourself as an owner?
Love that. Good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm all for making it easier.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Here's a question we have from Spin Cycle Laundromat. Does every state have to pay a COVID recovery assessment fee with their unemployment insurance payments? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. I don't
So if we are paying it, ADP is making sure we are, because I have no idea.
Yeah, that's a very specific question, and I don't actually know.
Okay.
But we could look into it to be sure. I see it's a COVID recovery assessment.
Recovery assessment. Assessment fee. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, we can definitely get an answer on that one.
I wonder if that's a state by state something.
Mm-hmm.
Spin Cycle, let us know what state you're in. Maybe that's.
I could definitely add some context. In this space, every state is so different, and some states have way more regulations than others. And that's what makes this space so exciting. Coming in, a lot of the reps in SBS and small business, we bring them straight out of school, 22, 23. And, payroll's not the sexiest thing in the world, but it's really cool because there's so much to know. The laws too, they're always changing. This isn't something that existed, prior to
2020.
Yeah. So every time we have a change, it creates complexity, and it creates a need, for our technology.
That's a fabulous point. And I have people, so I do all the bookkeeping for all of our businesses, and I have people ask me accounting questions all the time. And the two things I always tell them that I do not do myself: I do bookkeeping. I do not do the payroll because that's too many laws and things like this to keep track of. It would be a full-time job for me if I kept track of all those laws. The other thing, taxes. I do not do our taxes. It's just, you make sure that you don't make mistakes by having someone who's keeping up with those laws, because they're constantly changing. Have someone who that is their focus do those things for you. I swear it saves you so much time, so much headache. So basic bookkeeping, that's it.
It's our core competency for sure, and that's our entire job. We live it, we eat, sleep, and breathe it. And also because we pay 1 in 6 Americans, the government, the federal and state, they want to make sure we're doing it right. And so when these changes roll through, they're working with our executives hand in hand to make sure that all of these changes are rolled out in our technology. It's rolled out in our code.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, before we get on to further questions, guys, we're just getting started here. We're 30 minutes in. We're going to do this for about an hour, as long as you have questions. I'm going to pop a question up on the screen in a minute that, I don't know if I'll be able to help, but I'm going to try. But I just want to remind everyone, first of all, one of the cool things about ADP services is that we've negotiated a 20% discount for anyone associated with the Laundromat Millionaire platform. And so you can go to our website, laundromatmillionaire.com/services, and you can request a free HR screening with Patrick. And he'll jump on the phone, no obligation, no pressure. He'll try to help you as much as you can. And if you decide to use ADP's payroll services, one of the cool things about the platform is you're kind of seeing a little bit of kind of an interaction with a client here, right? Because you can call your representative and ask them a question that they may not know the answer to, right? Patrick, for example, may not know the answer, but I will tell you one thing they will do is, just as you saw, took notes on one of the questions a minute ago, and they will go back and try to find you either the answer or find you the resource. And if it's internal in ADP, they will point you to that resource. And if it's a free resource as part of your payroll services, they will send you links. They have free webinars. They have all these different things that they do in the platform. You're kind of seeing a little bit about, you're not just paying them for the payroll services, but you have a mentor, for a lack of a better term, that you can go to. And if it's completely out of the realm of their expertise as an organization, they'll tell you that too. But they have a lot of partnerships with other companies that complement what they do to help benefit us. And a lot of them are like listed on their website and things like that too. So when you're in a partnership with Laundromat Millionaire, hopefully you're getting benefits in a lot of different ways, not just coaching or not just a workshop. The same kind of relationship applies to when you have a partnership with really any company that has a big heart, but a company like ADP, and typically the bigger they are, the more collaborations, the more resources they're going to, you talked about that you do payroll for the IRS. Obviously, you can point us, and have pointed us to, by the way, already a few resources around labor laws and things like that. Maybe you can't answer them specifically, but you know where to point them to. And you just, I'll email you a link. I'm not the expert, but I know who the expert is, kind of thing.
Or so much as state specific, where
Yes.
the answer, you'd have to give us, 50 different ones.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to remind everyone of is we're here to help you with your business in any way we can for the next 30 minutes or so. So I see we have a lot of friends in the chat. Thank you so much for being here and supporting us tonight, guys. Make sure to continue to share your comments and your questions and try to benefit and help each other in the chat if you can too, because that's what makes this community great. This next question is a little bit of this is coming to us from Africa, but I'm going to take a crack at this puppy. And if anybody else has opinions or thoughts on this, I'm happy to as well. So the question is around hiring, and he is in Africa, just so we all know.
Nigeria.
Nigeria. He said, why is it that laundromats don't hire foreign workers? So I'm going to try to tackle these one at a time fairly quickly. The first one is, I don't think it's true that laundromats don't hire foreign workers. Now, if you're referring to a foreign worker, meaning living in another country and trying to get a job at a laundromat, then that's probably true. Yes. Yeah. And the main reason for that is because we don't typically, in the laundromat industry, we're small and segmented, and the job titles typically revolve around either managing a store, managing a team, doing pickup and delivery, meaning driving vans. These are hands-on positions.
We don't have many virtual positions.
Correct. And so there's not really going to be a need or even the ability to hire someone, quite frankly, from the next state over. They're not going to be able to benefit you because these are hands-on retail type of positions 99.9% of the time. Now, if you get involved with a large franchise or large manufacturer, they actually do hire, and I'm just speaking broadly, but they do hire foreign workers when they're able to for remote positions and things like that. So I think that kind of question kind of breaks down into a couple of things. One of them, I do think it does happen, but it's not as common as we think. And I think it's just because of the nature of running and operating a retail business. Another question here real quick, and we'll run on to a few more, Carla. Why does the industry, or why is there not an international body of law that governs the industry?
I think that's ultimately the question.
Yeah.
I think part of it is we're so piecemeal. Like a lot of the laundromat industry so far, there haven't been any big chains or franchises that have taken over the laundromat industry like a lot of other industries. We're a lot of just mom and pop shops. And because of that, we're very segmented, like Dave said before. So there's not a big governing body that kind of controls everything. We're all kind of little independents working on our own, which was honestly part of why we launched this whole platform. Was we felt so isolated. And as we started connecting with other people, we were like, okay, in today's day and age with the internet, with social media, with, podcasting platforms, we have all of this technology now. There's no reason that we need to be as segmented as we are. So this has been Laundromat Millionaire has kind of been our platform to connect and help each other. And maybe as time goes, we'll eventually be so interconnected that we'll have like an international body of law. But at this point, we're still pretty segmented, but we're bringing us together here.
Doing a great job of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll throw out there too is I think we need to remember that while our industry is not small, I hear people say that we're small. We're not a small industry, but we're certainly not big compared to most industries. And so I think when it comes to regulations, which is the term you use there, regulations usually come to an industry that, quite frankly, come from the government. And they usually come from some type of a pain point. Maybe a company's being predatory, and so they need to be regulated because of X. Or
there's some type of monopoly like we've had in,
yes.
The telephone system and
yes.
energy.
And so regulations don't just come for no reason. They typically come from reason, and they typically come from pain, at least in their best case scenarios. Sometimes they come from maybe nefarious ways too. But I think at the end of the day, our industry isn't that big, so we're not on the radar that much. We are very mom and pop and segmented, and we tend to be pretty straightforward business. And so I don't think there's a need for a lot of regulation. So I think that's probably a good part of the reason why it hasn't happened. Now, as technology changes and private equity gets involved and things like that, maybe that'll change in the future. And I'm sure if there's a need, somebody probably out there would love to regulate us.
We had a question
yeah.
From Chris Ward.
Yeah.
Do you all help with figuring out how to pay the international, if you have international employees? This kind of is a tangent off the previous question.
For sure. So, yes, we can. If your operations are big enough, we can. And then if they're smaller and they don't meet the threshold for ADP's international platform, we actually work with a partner. So reach out to me directly and we can share the info for the partner and get you in contact. And it's really cool. They help with just a one-off or two-off, and multi-country. So if you had to hire someone in Ecuador and someone in Nigeria, they could help with both of those. So we got a really strong partnership with the company that can make that possible.
Awesome.
Great job. So let's keep plowing because we're
getting
adding
a lot
them
of
up here real
questions
quick.
now.
Yeah. So here's one real quick, and I don't know if you guys are specific, or I know you are specific to Massachusetts, but I don't know if you can answer this question. Massachusetts charges twice the amount of unemployment insurance. I don't know if that's a
Do you have
comment or
any
a question.
idea?
Any idea what they're talking about?
They're the same people that mentioned the COVID. This is the same person that mentioned the COVID assessment. So maybe Massachusetts just really likes to tax people.
No, I can tell you with a little more confidence what probably happened. Not 100% here, but with unemployment, the way it works is that it's your one controllable tax. And so unemployment, it's a tax levied against the business owner. So the unemployment does not come out of the employee's paycheck. It's paid by the employer. And what happens is if employees go to claim unemployment benefits, it's they're pulling from this pool that all of the employers in that state that pay into. And so what happens is when unemployment goes insanely high, like it did in the beginning of COVID, when we had lockdown, no one was able to go. There was a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of people claiming that pool gets dwindled down. And then what happens is the state, when they don't have any more funds, they have to go to the federal government and get a loan. And so in order to pay back the federal government, the state will levy a higher unemployment rate.
So that makes sense. So Massachusetts is just trying to replenish their pool.
That is likely what that is. Yeah. So it looks like they're trying to re-up since, COVID layoffs. Yeah.
Okay, so this one,
every state does not have to deal with that at the moment.
Yeah. I know our unemployment insurance gets audited all the time. They're constantly checking it, doing little audits on it. We have a LinkedIn user. What was our first hire that we brought on, and how did bringing that person change your business afterwards? I'll just comment briefly and let Dave take over. But if you don't know our story, in the beginning, so we didn't have a whole lot of money, bought a laundromat, and we were both still working full-time jobs and had 3 kids at home. So it was crazy. Dave was literally going to the laundromat before his job started, driving an hour to his job, working all day, driving an hour home, going back to the laundromat, and then he would come home and crash at night, do it all again the next day. So that first employee for us was part-time to clean that first laundromat, and it was a huge game changer. Okay, Dave, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, so I don't like to take things for granted, and I don't want to take up too much time because we have more questions coming in. But just to go a little bit deeper for you here. So there's there's different types of ways to run laundromats. Different business models is what we call them. One of the most common ways, and especially historically, is what we call an unattended laundromat. And so I think it depends on the type of business you build or buy, what your first hire may or may not be. And for us, we acquired an unattended laundromat that was open 24 hours a day. So it quote unquote ran itself, right? Which we all know that doesn't happen. That's not the real world. That's not how this works, even in the laundry business. The machines definitely behave as employees to a certain extent, but somebody has to clean the store. Somebody has to, unclog the toilet. Somebody has to fill the vending machines, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, to answer your question, our first hire was a part-time attendant that we brought in to clean this. Actually, let me back up. It wasn't even an attendant. An attendant provides customer service and helps customers with the machines. They didn't do that. They were actually a contractor and they were just a cleaner. So they weren't even a quote unquote W-2 employee. They would come in and clean one time a day for about 3 hours. And she's right. When the first 3 or 4 months that we owned the business, I did all of that myself around my full-time job. Mm-hmm. And then once we grew the business a little bit, we brought on one contract cleaning person to just supplement me. So I didn't have to go up there every day, 2 or 3 times a day. And then obviously it's grown to, fast forward now we have 35 employees. We have 4 locations, retail laundromats. They're all fully attended. We have a crew of delivery drivers, a crew of processors that process our wash, dry, fold, and pick up and delivery business overnight when the store is closed to the public. And then we have a team of delivery drivers and a fleet of trucks that go out and pick up and drop off laundry as well. And that's kind of fast forward to where we are today. But yeah, a lot of times that first position is a, 10, 15 hours a week part-time position. They can be a little bit of a catch-all. And as long as they're W-2 employees, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. And they can kind of be your right-hand man or woman, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And that's usually how you start. And then you evolve and grow and you create more responsibilities and more locations. And, I remember the first time we we promoted an attendant from an attendant to a trainer. And we paid her 50 cents more an hour. And the only difference was she did the job she did every day. But when I hired somebody, I would send them to her and she would train them for 3 or 4 shifts. And then they would become an attendant. She didn't manage them. She wasn't her boss. She just trained them because in the beginning, I had to go in and train people how to do that before and after work and on the weekends and things like that.
All of those initial hires are really just taking a little more off of our plates, to the point that now, honestly, Dave goes into the laundromat once a week for a manager's meeting. And kind of going off that, another just like game-changing hire was the first time we had a manager that was fully trained to basically do anything that Dave was doing. Like if something were to happen and we couldn't collect the store, she was able to do collections. Like basically everything could be done without us. In the beginning, it wasn't all done without us, but it was possible. So
yeah, and just to piggyback on that real quick. So she would be a form of a redundancy is what we call her, a backup, right? And so if I was healthy and in town, then I would do collections and I would repair machines and different things like this. But if we went on vacation, even though it was only once or twice a year, or went out of town for 2 days on a weekend trip or something, we always had someone that knew how to do things. And I could always call. And even if I had to walk them through the process. And the point is, I guess, when you're starting a small business at kind of the bottom of the food chain, very bare bones minimum, not even making money type of thing. A lot of times you have to scrap, it's that old grit that you have to dig deep within you and just figure out ways to get things done that are creative. You always want to be legal, of course, but you have to be creative and you have to be willing to just grind. But I always tell people, but how you do things today has nothing to do with how we will do things next week. So if you don't want to keep doing what you've always done, then find a path. Create a path forward to the next level of your business. And that may look like sacrifice. It probably does. It may look like some form of pain. It probably does on some level. And you can't grow yourself out of the way you do things now without sacrificing your time to build systems and processes. And they don't need to be complicated. They can be written down on an index card and taped on the wall. They don't need to be complicated, but you're never going to get to where you want to go if you don't reverse engineer this thing. So I don't know if that helps you a little bit, but that's it in a nutshell.
We're starting to get several questions about staffing and hiring. And Patrick and Justis, if you all can address some of the things that you all have at ADP and some of the recommendations you have for people to find good employees. That's always a struggle in any industry, but in our industry for sure.
Absolutely. I would say like tools and technology, right, are the theme when we talk about hiring, because when you hire, right, you're looking for somebody, and these questions, a lot of them are focused on like, what was the task that employee like actually did? But I think bigger picture than that, if you're, running a business and thinking about bringing someone on, is like, what am I going to do to keep that right candidate when I find them? And, one of those things, so, I say tools and tech. First, it's like, how are we going to find them? So ADP actually has a partnership with ZipRecruiter. And so when you set up a run account, you've got full-blown access to ZipRecruiter. So you can go out, post jobs. It's one of the most powerful recruiting tools on the market. And then we talk about technology, a big part of like keeping staff is candidate experience. What is somebody's experience when they come into your business, day one, even before day one, right? From the time that they send an application over to the time that they run an interview, like, do you have, pre-scripted interview questions? Are you on the fly figuring it out? And is that apparent throughout the process? We can provide forms and templates that actually give you the FAQs and like at a glance how to run an interview. And right, it's cool because you could, get quickly trained up on that as a business owner, or you could pass it off to a key employee who may not have that HR background. But then going back into candidate experience, like, they come in, do they have to jot down their information on a paper form? How is that processed? Like everything is electronic. And I think, we talk about Gen Z in the workforce, they expect it to be electronic these days, And so I think our technology, our infrastructure, allows a small business to have that big business feel, which increases that the candidate experience and like, build your credibility as an employer. When you go to work for somebody and, they may not be in the nicest shopping center in the world, but they come in day one and they're logging into ADP, the employee knows like, okay, they're legit. Right. So I don't know. That's kind of that's the color I'd add there.
And I want to add to that real quick. So obviously we have behaved as a janky company, for lack of a better. This is us, no one else, right? We were pretty bush league back in the day. I'll fully acknowledge it.
We had no clue what we were doing.
Yeah, none whatsoever. Like I said, everything was kind of a hot mess, and I'm sure probably some people in the chat can relate. But at the end of the day, most of us have been there at one point or another. And if you haven't, bless you. But if you have, then you understand the difference in behaving that way, and hopefully you've evolved into a better way of behaving. And by behaving, I mean running your business. And I can tell you, I can speak for personal preference that when we behaved in that way, the type, meaning kind of janky and backwards, paper forms and et cetera, we were in a situation where we had trouble attracting employees. And when we attracted a good employee, because we always tried to have pretty high standards, then we would have trouble retaining them because they recognize this, right? And the better quality employee you find, the more options they're going to have. They have options out in the world. The people at the bottom of the food chain, quote unquote, don't have options, right? Or as many options. So if you want to attract a solid, and I don't mean an MBA, but I mean a solid employee that is reliable and trustworthy and doesn't come into work high and doesn't steal from you and all these basic fundamentals, right? Then you're going to need to behave. You're going to have to run and operate your business as if the type of company that they would want to work for, because they have the option of working for a company like that. And it doesn't matter if they're your only employee or your 50th employee. And the last thing is, if you do hire them, maybe you find a rock star, you bring them in and they tolerate the fact you have no onboarding and paper time cards and et cetera, et cetera. As soon as they have a better option, they're going to leave for greener pastures. But if you run your organization in a way that embraces, promotions and things like that, pay increases, benefits, things like that, you're going to be able to retain these people a lot better. So finding them and interviewing them and training them and getting them to accept the job is the first obstacle to overcome in hiring employees. But the next one is retaining them. So you don't want to, the worst case scenario, you never can find them and hire them. The next worst case scenario is you find them, you invest a little bit of time in them, you get them up to speed, you recognize that they're awesome, and then they leave because they have better options. And so these employee retention is a real thing. That's it.
It's huge. Yeah, Dave, thank you for adding that additional color to like really dive into Carla's question. Our platform run, right? It's scalable. And so like specifically how I can support, right? Well, it's funny. It's kind of it's a tough one to really encompass in one answer because there's so much that run does. and it's all driven toward helping recruit and retain better employees. But like day one, it starts with, before even day one, it starts with the job description and the employee handbook. A lot of small businesses, don't have a system and a process to put out a job description and to clearly communicate what the employee needs to do day one. So, they come in applying for the job, they're not even sure what they're applying for, and then get on the job, having these written down documented policies helps increase retention because the employees day one know exactly what's expected. And so we actually have wizards inside of the system where you can go in and, fill out a survey, and the system will quickly produce for you a job description. You don't have to sit down and spend hours writing it. You don't have to worry, are you in compliance with EEOC law? Have you accidentally discriminated in your job description? Like, it's taken care of. It's a time saver, and it just keeps you in compliance, and it starts to give you your business that structure. But those are a couple of the features that I think speak to attracting and retaining from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, before we go on to the next question, anything you wanted to add to that? I know we talked about a lot of stuff right there real quick.
Yeah, I would say like just the whole employee experience, kind of speaking from the Gen Z that he mentioned, where, when I came on board with ADP, something where, they sent me my entire onboarding because our system, it lets you do, either self onboarding as an employee, or, you can onboard them as the employer. And, being able to, control that really just made the process as seamless as possible, so that, once I did get there, I knew what the expectations were. And, as a business owner, being able to decide if you want to control that process or, leave it up to your employees, it's a major part as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, we're running up on about our last 9 or 10 minutes here. Justis, Patrick, thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise. But guys, we have a few minutes left, so crash session here. Any questions you have, laundromat related, small business related, employee hiring, HR, that's what Patrick and Justis are here for. We have a couple more questions we're going to address, but if you have any more, now's the time to get them in, because we're going to run for the next 9 minutes until the top of the hour. But everyone in the chat, all of our friends, thank you for being here tonight and for joining us and supporting us. I just want to remind you one last time of our partnership with ADP and the 20% discount that we've negotiated with them on behalf of Laundromat Millionaire Nation. And keep in mind, just go to our website, laundromatmillionaire.com/services, and you can click on the ADP link there. That's how you'll get the 20% discount off. And that's, by the way, not a one-time thing. That's every month. That's forever and ever. Amen. Right. As long as you use ADP services. And so you're just kind of coming into the community, the cohort, so to speak, and you're benefiting from the power of us all working together. And obviously we thank ADP for being our partners here today, but keep in mind too, you can shoot over questions. Patrick and Justis offer free HR screenings before you pay them a nickel. They'll talk to you about your business. If you joined a little bit later, maybe go back and watch the recording at the beginning of this. We talked about some of those things. But this is a really good question. I think we'll want to hit on real quickly. We'll read it out loud, but it's on the screen if you can see it visually.
Well, if anyone's driving and listening, what are the pros and cons to classifying an employee as a 1099 instead of a W-2?
Right. Yeah, it's a good one. I'm telling you, it comes up. This is probably one of the most addressed topics on our HR screenings. And we talk pros and cons. I think presenting it that way doesn't do us justice, because really it's a question of legality. What is legal? Sure, you could choose to just make the decision, but like the law states that an employee whose job you are directing is a W-2, right? Should be classified as W-2. And you as a business owner are responsible for taking a piece of their wage, holding it to the side. It's the taxes, pulling those taxes to the side and then paying them. You are liable as a business owner for those taxes. And so, the pro of not putting someone down as W-2 is that you don't have to deal with that responsibility. But on the flip side, right, that's your responsibility, right?
You're not dealing with
it. You can get a big old fine.
The pro is like no headache in the short term, but then it comes with risk on the flip side, right?
Yeah.
Because if you ever get audited, let's say you've classified somebody for the last 5-10 years as a 1099 improperly, and they get laid off, they go file that unemployment claim, Now the Department of Labor in your state comes knocking like, oh, I didn't know that they were an employer in our state. And then, that can open up the doors to an audit. They could go back, and Renisha, I think we have Renisha in here. We've got a couple, maybe other CPAs can speak to this, but when they open the doors to an audit, I mean, we're talking about back taxes. It could be federal and state. It gets really crazy really quick. And we're talking penalty and interest. So I'd say, if your goal is long-term, if you're thinking long-term about building your brand, like, we should just have a conversation about what does it really require, to have someone work for you. And I think that's the benefit of the HR screening, right? Is we're not here just pushing the product. Yeah, there's a 20% off, but even if, hiring is probably not, 6 months, 12 months down the road, we can plant these seeds and let you know what it really takes to bring somebody on staff, because it's more than just the $1,000 you're going to pay them. You've got unemployment taxes, you've got the employer side of FICA. We do Payroll 101, where we'll draw it up on the whiteboard and we can break down both sides of the paycheck, every single tax that comes out. And so we're happy to do that. This is how we build clientele. It's just building these connections and sharing that knowledge.
Totally.
Just to kind of spin off of what Brian Harrington said that Dave has up on the screen now, what I was going to say about the whole W-2 versus 1099 is like what he's saying, the control. What do you want that person to do determines whether they're W-2 or 1099. If you want to control what hours they're there, if you're giving them the supplies to do that cleaning, if you're wanting them to provide customer service to your customers, like the more you're controlling that environment, they're not a 1099. A 1099, you don't have all that control. You're just hiring them for a job, but they have the flexibility of when and how they do that job. They're providing their own materials. Like, I'm not going through the actual checklist of how you determine whether it's a W-2 or a 1099, but that's kind of the whole thing behind it. If you're controlling how and when they do their job, they are a W-2. Basically, is what those guidelines are trying to tell you. So it's not really so much a choice of 1099 or W-2. It's a choice of what kind of job are you wanting them to do? What are you paying them for? And if you want control over what that is, they're a W-2.
Yeah. And I just want one last thing, and then we'll get to the one last question here before we leave today. Keep in mind, just because you've always done it this way and there's been no consequences, doesn't mean you're in compliance, right? I hear that all the time, and that is just mind-boggling to me.
That's like saying you don't commit a sin unless you're caught.
It's like saying just because you robbed 3 banks doesn't mean you didn't break the law, because you didn't get caught. You did. You just didn't get caught. And I always add the preface of yet, right? And you touched on it, Justice, but when or if you do get caught, and I guess if you want to play that game, you can, but when and if you do get caught, they will go back. Okay. Because they will look how long, once they catch you, it's not just a slap on the wrist or even a significant penalty. Now it's okay. Let's go back and see how long you've been misbehaving. And you're going to be punished for all of that. Okay. Financially, legally. So not to scare anyone or anything like that, but especially in our industry, full disclosure. I mean, I'm sure at some point in our journey, we did something illegally because we didn't know any better. And ignorance is not an excuse either, right? You can't say I didn't know I wasn't allowed to rob a bank or whatever. Like, that doesn't apply to. Were you going to say something, Justice?
I was just going to say, and they might let you get away with it for a few years, but you open the doors up to an audit, they will look back, and just as you establish yourself in business, I mean, it could really set you back.
Yeah,
and so it's huge.
Yeah. Well, all right. So last question we got for everyone here tonight. So Dewards, thanks for joining us, and everyone, thanks for joining us. Don't forget, if you joined us in the midway through or partial way through it, if you missed anything at the beginning, all these recordings will be available on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook.
Also, if we missed any questions out there, remember, you can call them for that free screening and ask them then.
Sure. Yeah. Dave, do you mind if I grab this one real quick?
Go right ahead. Yeah.
And if we do run out of time,
no, we're good. We can run over. We're fine.
Perfect. Well, Mr. Stout, you can reach out to us. We may be able to help, but so funding and HSA. So one of the cool things is that ADP, we actually own a broker dealer business for retirement and an insurance agency for small group health plans and workers' compensation. So I don't know what your organization looks like. In order to set up a small group plan through us, you do have to have a minimum of 2 employees. But we could set that up, and it could be completely streamlined, integrated into the payroll. You could take your healthcare contributions for your HSA out literally of the paycheck that you pay yourself. So happy to chat on the one-off if you'd like to connect.
Yeah. And Deward, I'm not sure what time you jumped or when you jumped in here, but I've said it a few times in this. Don't hesitate to reach out to them. They're not high pressure salespeople. They genuinely want to help you. That is who ADP is as an organization. That is who these individuals are as human beings. We've gotten to know them. They want to help you. And if they have a service that can help you, then they will let you know that as well. But this is not a sales pitch or anything like that. They're genuinely here to help. And obviously, we've negotiated a discount. So if you decide that their services work for you, awesome. You're going to be able to get a 20% discount on that as well.
And if not, we can part ways as professional contacts. You know, a lot of times we plant seeds, and it may be 2, 3, 4 years down the road before someone comes to us. So, yeah.
Well, and with that HR screening, you know, they'll help you figure out what are some of the things that would be good for your business and maybe that you're needing. And maybe you're not in a position that you're ready to get their services now, or maybe you want some of their services, but maybe not that one yet. So it's informational where, you know, okay, this is something I need to look towards in the future getting.
I'm most excited about talking to the folks that aren't yet hiring. They haven't made any mistakes. They haven't bumped their head yet. And I tell you, so much, like so often we're educating, and it's sometimes we can't educate enough. And some, you know, people have to learn the hard way in some cases. So, you know, a lot of times people do come back to us, you know, after a mistake has happened, but you know, we pride ourselves in trying to spread that information to keep people out of trouble in the first place.
Yeah. Awesome, man. What a great episode this has been.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Patrick,
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Everyone in the chat, everyone that's going to receive the recording later, we're going to continue to do these kind of things, probably again with ADP in the future. So when you see these things pop up, when you see invites, when you get a social or email blast that says we're doing a Q&A on whatever particular topic, this is an example of what we're trying to do and just trying to help each other, bring value, community. Justis, you hit on something I want to just point out real quick. You know, everybody on here is on social media right now, which means whatever your platform on, we're on too. And I would guess for the most part, Justis and Patrick are probably on those too. So connect with them. Even if you don't need their services right now, or you even use a competitor, connect with them. Whether it's, you know, Facebook calls it friends and LinkedIn calls it professional connections, and, you know, subscribe on YouTube, whatever it looks like, right? Connect with them, because they're going to have a network of individuals that may or may not have anything to do with ADP, by the way. But they're good people. They're professionals. They're intelligent. They're in the business world. They want to help you. And who knows, maybe someday you will have a connection that can help them. And this is the good side of social media. So 30-second soapbox here. I know social media can be a powerful thing for evil, right? And for terrible, terrible things, and for people to behave in terrible ways. But we can use that for good too. Okay. So embrace each other. Consider them friends. Use this as an opportunity to engage with them. I think I can speak for them because they've done this for me. If you know someone in their network that you would like to connect with, shoot them a PM, shoot them an email. They will be happy to connect to you, and vice versa. So this is how we are. This is the power of collaboration and human beings working together to benefit each other. And this is the point of Laundromat Millionaire. This is why we created this platform. It's why we continue to grow the platform and continue to bring experts like Justis and Patrick and the ADP team into this cohort, if you will.
Also, one last plug. If you're on here, don't forget, go to laundromatmillionaire.com/services and get that, schedule that free HR assessment with Patrick. And also, if you decide to use their Run payroll system, get 20% off. So make sure you check out that link. It also has some other services and deals that we've negotiated. So you might want to check those out as well.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well,
Dave,
listen,
Carla,
thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
to the Millionaire community, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a
Take
great
care.
night.
all right. Thank
Have a
you
good
guys.
night, guys.
Everyone take care and have a good week. See you next time.